6 weeks ago, the paddock buried Marc Marquez. 102 points down, written off, finished. And then this happened at the Sachsenring circuit, transforming the title chase into a collective illusion we all agreed to believe. Here is the take nobody in the paddock dares utter. Jorge Martin does not command this title race. Not really. He occupies the peak of a scoreboard that signifies nothing, and he recognizes that truth better than anyone. Because on July 12, 2026, in front of a roaring German crowd, Marc Marquez did not merely secure victory. He erased. He humiliated and shrank his own deficit down to 18 points. 14. That represents the entire buffer Martin guards heading into the mid-season hiatus. So how does a rider written off as dead weight suddenly put the fear of God into the frontrunner? That is the mystery. It begins at a brutal venue that exposed every single weakness in the paddock. The German venue features 13 corners. 10 of those curves loop left. Think about what that bias does to a racing slick. You lean on the exact same band of rubber, corner after corner, lap after lap. If your chassis fails to bite that edge, your race expires before the starting lights extinguish. Marquez, piloting the factory Ducati Lenovo machine, commands this asphalt ribbon like a private backyard. His Sunday triumph marked his 10th Premier Class victory at this single location. 10th. That milestone matches a celebrated record Giacomo Agostini established 50 years ago, untouched by any human hand since. 50 years. Obliterated in an afternoon. Want to grasp why Grand Prix racing hooks spectators decade after decade? Subscribe to this channel. Because seismic shifts like this, the sudden psychological collapses, the resurrections nobody predicted, materialize far more often than headlines acknowledge. You will catch them as they unfold. Pivot now to the opposing garage, where the psychological decay festers. Jorge Martin, piloting the factory Aprilia, launched from 9th. 9th. The nominal championship pacemaker. He battled up to 5th position, crossing the stripe 11.372 seconds behind the flying Marquez. This was not a minor slip. This was not bad luck. This was a yawning gulf. Martin stood in the paddock afterward and offered a confession most athletes guard with their lives. He spoke the truth about his state. He labeled himself an anecdotal leader, his exact phrase. Then, he delivered the warning that should terrify every single Aprilia supporter watching. If I continue making races like this one, I won't be in the lead for long. That is not the declaration of a champion. Instead, you hear the sound of a man watching the floor collapse beneath his boots. What actually ruptured in their setup? Martin admitted the truth flat out during his media debrief. His Aprilia RS-GP generates zero rear traction while the front end dances unpredictably beneath him. Translation: he cannot carry sped through rapid sweepers. Remember those 10 relentless left-hand turns? The machine's weakness lives permanently on the left shoulder of the tire, the exact patch this venue punishes for 2/3 of every single lap. It represents the worst geometry for his specific mechanical nightmare. The layout exposed his vulnerability and punished him for 30 consecutive laps. This competitive rot did not originate in Germany. Travel back to May. Martin dominated the French Grand Prix at Le Mans, projecting complete invincibility. Then, his victory stream evaporated instantly. He has not tasted gold since. Meanwhile, his 3 Aprilia stablemates each snatched at least one sprint victory. Same hardware, same factory, same engineers. 3 alternative riders unlocked the performance. He did not. Either the prototype motorcycle suddenly rebelled against one specific pilot, or some internal poison compromised the garage culture. It is the internal poison. If this analysis strikes a chord with you, strike that like button. Your engagement delivers this story to passionate racing enthusiasts who deserve to witness the reality unfolding inside that Aprilia box. Here is the friction point that elevates a competitive slump into a bitter soap opera. During July 2026, Jorge Martin signed a contract to abandon Aprilia and join Yamaha for the 2027 campaign. He has already departed. Mentally, legally, he stands outside. How do you suppose a factory treats an athlete who just announced his defection to a direct rival? They lock him out of design meetings. The leader, barred from the exact technical debriefs that determine how his motorcycle evolves. Reflect on that reality. The pilot heading the title standings exerts less influence over his technical package than a developmental rider circulating in 15th place. You cannot secure a world championship from the frozen corner of a garage that has already ceased fighting on your behalf. This poisonous atmosphere did not manifest overnight. Back in June, at Balaton Park in Hungary, Martin triggered a multi-bike pileup on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Aprilia executive Massimo Rivola publicly condemned his rider for the high-risk maneuver. Most competitors absorb that executive lash and offer a scripted apology. Not Martin. At the subsequent press conference, he accepted full responsibility, offering a sincere apology while expressing hope that the team would support him through this difficult stretch. A star rider and his executive director trading blows through media microphones in front of a global audience. That is not a cohesive racing team. That is a hostage crisis draped in corporate sponsorship logos. While one garage fractures from within, observe the serene focus operating across the pit lane. Marquez experiences complete bewilderment regarding this rapid shift. He admitted to the media that he fails to comprehend how quickly the point deficit evaporated. Think about that. The most decorated active champion on the grid stands baffled by the velocity of his own resurrection. Here is the detail that borders on cruelty. He accomplishes this surge on a body that remains incomplete. His right arm still lacks full strength, still locked in recovery, and he confessed that his entire mid-season break must be spent undergoing grueling physical rehabilitation to reconstruct the stamina required to compete. He wins races at a swift pace, utilizing a damaged limb, while remaining entirely mystified by his own speed. That is the predator hunting Martin down. Step back to analyze the broader competitive horizon, because the mathematics heading into this summer pause look wild. The top 5 riders in the standings reside within 24 points of each other. 24. That represents less than a single Grand Prix weekend's maximum reward. Any of those 5 athletes could control the standings by late August. The congestion intensified due to a brutal twist of fate, fracturing his left collarbone. Banished from the weekend, returned to Italy and underwent surgery the following morning. One qualifying lap turned chaotic, and the entire picture reshaped itself within seconds. That demonstrates the razor-thin margins defining modern Grand Prix racing. Let us execute an honest audit of the standings. Martin possesses 208 points. AI Ogura is breathing down his neck. Marquez lurks immediately behind them. On paper, Martin still retains the advantage. On paper. But paper does not navigate savage left-hand turns. Paper does not get locked out of future developmental testing. Paper does not stand before a microphone and label its own status as a mere historical footnote. Every asset Martin guards is a metric in decay, while every weapon Marquez wields is a psychological force gaining speed. Which rider receives your bet? This is the exact moment where the narrative transcends a single weekend in Germany. Because the mid-season pause does not offer rest, it presents a fork in the road. Marquez spends his hiatus locked in a clinical therapy room, rebuilding an arm, striving to erase the remaining deficit. Martin spends his summer days isolated from a factory that already constructs a future excluding him, piloting a machine he cannot repair, desperate to preserve a thin margin rooted in a solitary triumph from May. One racer climbs, the other clings. When the starting lights go out on the other side of this transition, only one of those trajectories wins world championships. That reveals the true reason the German Grand Prix stung so viciously for Jorge Martin. It was not the 11-second margin of defeat, nor did the lackluster 5th-place finish inflict the deepest wound. It was the exact instant the entire grid realized the championship leader no longer carries the psychological conviction of a champion. He exposed his own vulnerability. He handed his rivals the script for his own downfall, openly admitting in front of the cameras that his days at the top of the standings were severely numbered. The electronic scoreboard displays Martin. The German asphalt declared Marquez. Half a century from now, when another phenom eventually matches 10 victories at a single venue, historians will still recount the legend of this summer, remembering how the title deficit dissolved into nothing, while the man on top talked himself right out of a crown he technically still possessed. If this breakdown ignited your passion the way it consumed mine, smash that like button and subscribe. This championship battle threatens to detonate the moment the engines fire back up, and you do not want to watch this history unfold secondhand.